Skylars 12 here, and I'm going to do something a little bit different today. I am going to do my first crime review. And the crime that I want to review is the murder of Skylar Neese. I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but if you haven't, I got the story. So Skylar Neese was born on February 10th of 1996 to Dave and Mary Neese. And she was the only child. Dave worked at Walmart and Mary was an assistant at a cardiac lab. And as Skylar went into second grade, she meets Sheila Eddy. So they were 8 years old when they met. They got to know Sheila, and then eventually, when they got into high school, they met Rachel Shove. She was a redhead, huge Broadway fan, such as myself. Anyway, the three of them became inseparable. And then eventually, other people surrounding Skylar and Rachel realized that Sheila was beginning to be a bad influence on them. She would make them skip school, do drugs, alcohol, smoke, all that good stuff. But then one night, Rachel ends up inviting Sheila and Skylar to a sleepover. And as soon as Rachel's mom went to bed, they started drinking and smoking. They were fine, having a good time. And then all of a sudden, Skylar sees Sheila and Rachel having sex with each other. And unfortunately, Skylar got it on video. So that was the end of that night. Sheila and Skylar ended up fighting constantly because of that. And then came June of 2012, near the end of their sophomore year of high school. Sheila invited Skylar to go to the beach with her. But they just kept fighting throughout the whole trip. So when they got back, Sheila told Rachel about the constant fighting during the trip and everything. And that's when they decided they wanted to get rid of Skylar. So in school, they were, discussing ways of how to get rid of a body and what do we need to do to kill her and everything. A lot of people at the school overheard the murder plot, but they didn't do anything because they thought they were joking. There was one person that did actually tell Skylar about it, and Skylar confronted Sheila and Rachel. They were like, "Nah, we're just joking. We won't kill you." But, anyway, so now comes the time when their sophomore year is over, and Sheila convinces Skylar to come out on a joyride with her and Rachel after she gets off work on the night of July 6th of 2012. And unfortunately, Skylar just thought, okay, we're going to get things back how they were, and, we're just going to have fun. But Sheila and Rachel actually decided this was the night they were going to kill her. So they brought clean clothes, cleaning cloths, bleach, and a shovel. And then those were all hid in Sheila's trunk of the car. And they hid the knives in their hoodies. So they picked up Skylar around 12:30 that night, and they went out to Blacksville, Pennsylvania. where that's where they usually would go out and sit and talk and smoke and all that jazz. But soon they realized that they forgot their lighter, so they asked Skylar to go back to the car and get a lighter. As Skylar headed down to the car to get the lighter, that's when Sheila and Rachel picked up the knives and counted to 3 and ran over to attack Skylar. At one point, Skylar did try to run, but Rachel tackled her, and she grabbed Rachel's knife and stabbed her in the knee. At that point, Rachel said she stopped the attack, but Sheila just kept going until she died. So they stood over her and watched her take her last breath, and the only word that Skylar could say was "why?" And in one documentary, they mentioned that they tried slitting her throat, but I don't know. Anyway, they tried to bury Skylar with the shovel that Rachel had gotten from her dad's garage, but they couldn't dig a hole because the ground was too hard because it ran alongside of a creek. So instead, they just had to pile branches and stuff on top of Skylar's body. They cleaned up whatever they could, cleaned themselves up, changed their clothes, grabbed Skylar's purse, disposed of their clothes in the purse, and left. So the next day, July 7th, Skylar's dad comes in to check on her and give her the car so she can go to work. But her door was locked. He unlocks the door, he comes in, realized she's not in there, and that her window was open, and realized that she had snuck out. He also noticed when he went outside, he saw a bench that was by her window. So he calls Mary and was like, "Hey, have you seen Skylar? She's not here." And Mary's like, "Well, let's wait for her. Let's wait around for her. Maybe she's out swimming or shopping or doing something else with her friends." So then later he calls Sheila and is like, "Have you seen Skylar?" She said no. When was the last time you talked to her? Around midnight. And that was it. Then Mary comes home, and that's when Sheila calls back and says, "I actually have to tell you the truth. We snuck out last night, and I brought her back home around midnight. We drove around from 11 to about midnight around Star City, and I brought her back. But I dropped her off at the end of the street so she wouldn't wake you guys up sneaking back in." And that was it. So, but what they realized, her parents realized that they have security cameras above their apartment. So they looked at the security footage and saw that Skylar was getting into the car around 12:30 instead of 11. So the investigators looked at the security footage. They couldn't see whose car that was, but they went to a gas station to look at another, security camera to see if they found anything. And this security camera actually noted that it was Sheila's car. It was clear as day. The other camera was really grainy and hard to see, but the other one, you could see very clearly that was Sheila's car. So for a long time, Sheila and Rachel planned their story. They drove around Star City for about an hour and dropped her off home. But the security footage that they found at the gas station showed they went in the opposite direction. They went over to Blacksville, Pennsylvania. And around that time, that's where they heard about a party, a bank robber stole money for this party, and they got drugs, and Skylar, Sheila, and Rachel went to the party. Skylar overdosed, died, and they disposed of the body, but obviously that did not happen. That's what they thought all along, until one day Rachel changed her story a little bit, saying they did drive to Blacksville. And that's when Skylar told them to let her out. Later on, in December, Rachel has a mental breakdown and is sent to the hospital, the psychiatric hospital, and her parents get her a lawyer because after she was released from the hospital, the investigators wanted to meet her at her lawyer's office. No, she wanted to meet the investigators at her lawyer's office. So they went into the office, and the investigators are there. Rachel sits down and tells them, "We stabbed her." And after she told the entire story, the investigators asked her why. This is the most disturbing part. All she said was, because we didn't want to be friends with her and didn't like her anymore. So after that interview, instead of arresting Rachel, they decided to use her to get Sheila to incriminate herself. So they told her to go home. They put a wire around her body to get, like a recording device around her body to get Sheila to incriminate herself, but of course it doesn't work. But the investigators found the rest of Skylar's remains and declared that it was her body. And then they found blood in Sheila's trunk. They took the blood over for examination and they realized it was Skylar's blood. So that was enough to arrest the girls. Sheila pled guilty to first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison with possibility of parole after 15 years. Rachel took a plea deal, and because of her cooperation, she got 30 years in prison, but the possibility for parole after 10 years. So actually, her parole hearing is next spring. So that's going to be interesting. So yeah, that's the story of Skylar Neese, and it's been 10 years now. This past July, it's been 10 years. So have you guys heard of this story? Let me know in my email, kapossible03@gmail.com. You can also check out my TikTok, KKStar121, or Twitter, 12StarKK. I'll see you guys later. Love you. Bye.